Menu Labor Review. We have two types of labor services in MaxxTraxx, flat rate labor and menu labor. Let's take a look at a menu labor first, create a menu labor, and then see how menu labors are used. From the menu bar, click Manager and select Manage Labor Service List. This opens our labor search window listing all of our labors, both flat rate labor and menu labor services. Note this is the same list accessed from within an RO to add a labor. We're just opening this list from a different area in MaxxTraxx. These three buttons here are the master record buttons to add, to edit, or delete a labor service from this list. Note here in the type column, most of my labor services are flat rate, but I have one menu labor service here for an alignment. Let's look at that menu labor first. Highlight the line and click the Edit button down here, or just double-click on the line to open this labor's master record. Similar to a flat rate labor service, we have a labor code, short description, printed description, product code, all the same as the flat rate labor. This is where we start to see the difference in the hours section. Notice we have a flat rate hours field here. In a flat rate labor service record, we would also have billed hours, the tenths of hours to be multiplied by our labor rate to get a selling price to be billed to the customer. In a menu labor, we just enter an exact dollar amount to bill the customer for this alignment. Click the price link on the left, and here is where we have a total menu price for this alignment, $49.95. Notice we have a breakdown between labor and parts here. We'll create a new menu labor that has parts in a moment, but I wanted to show you a basic menu labor without parts to start. So why do we do this? The reason is we may want to charge the customer an exact dollar amount. In this case, $49.95 for this alignment. As you may recall, in a flat rate labor service, we would need to jockey around our billed hours and or our shop rate to get to an exact amount of $49.95 for this alignment. So using a menu labor is just easier. And the term menu labor comes from the premise that this might be on a printed flyer or painted on a board behind the service counter for our customers to see. Hence, we call it a menu. Let's cancel out of this record and go back to our labor list and add a brand new menu labor from scratch using the wizard. Click the Add Labor Service button on the left, and we'll select the Menu Price Labor Radio button. Our labor code is brakes. This field is automatically caps. And short description is front brakes, which is automatically entered here in the printed description. We can edit the description that prints on the customer's repair order, but we'll leave it just the same as a short description for this example, and click Next. Notice here in the wizard, no field to enter billed hours to the customer, because remember, we don't multiply labor times by our shop rate for this menu labor. It's a specific fixed price. We would enter the number of flat rate hours to give our technician credit to do this job. And we'll leave our product code on general labor. And next. So for this example, we're going to have parts and labor in this menu labor service. I always put the parts on first. Click the Add Part or Placeholder button, and we can select for this menu labor an actual part from our parts list. However, this is a generic brake job special that could have all sorts of different brake pads. So instead of putting on an actual part number on this menu labor, close, I'm going to enter a placeholder. Click Add Placeholder, and I can type in brake pads or click this Select button on the right and choose from this list. I can add to this list, by the way, down here, see? These master record buttons work just the same as in our labor service records. Brake pads are already on the list, so I'll highlight and click the Select button, or just double click. And the quantity defaults to 1. I'll enter my selling price, $45, and OK. Next, I'll enter my total menu price on the right, $149.95. And MaxxTraxx automatically enters the balance as the labor portion, $104.95. Then click Finish. Once the menu labor is created, you can add on any additional user charges if applicable, and the user charges amount is above and beyond my $149.95 menu price labor. Click OK. Now let's see this menu labor in action. Let's open a repair order and highlight a reason for service. Click the Labors button and select Labor Service from List. Here is our new menu labor for our front brakes. Highlight and select. Now this labor sales detail information screen looks a bit different than our regular flat rate labor detail screen. We have parts. From this adjustment button, discounts and user charges can be added or removed. And here are the flat rate labor times assigned to my technician, Paul Bartlett. Click OK. And click the plus sign to show the parts below. And we treat this placeholder like any other placeholder, and we'll replace this placeholder with the actual parts used for this brake job. Right-click on the placeholder and select Add a Part from Catalog. So let's go out to our AC Delco supplier and select some brake pads. These Durastop for $36.59 will work. When we add the parts from the catalog to the repair order to replace that placeholder, we'll get a notice screen. The placeholder price for this brake job is $45, but the inventory price, the normal selling price we would sell those brake pads for, is $73.18. So we could stick with the placeholder price, which gives us about an $8 profit on those brake pads, or we could select Use Inventory Part Price. Let's do that. And click OK. Now we will get this other warning because the amount of the part on this menu labor has changed. We need to adjust the menu labor by either changing our labor amount billed to the customer to keep this brake job at that $149.95, or we could change the menu price, keeping our original labor selling price at that $104.95. However, the whole idea behind the menu price labor is to stick to that fixed price, printed menu pricing for that brake job of $149.95. So I find in most cases, shops select to change the labor sale. Occasionally, a part may be so much more expensive than this menu price would presume that the shop will pass that additional expense for parts onto the customer and select to increase the total menu price. For this example, we'll select to change the labor and click OK. So note up here, we're charging less for the labor portion of this brake job to be able to stay at that $149.95 mark. The flat rate hours we give to the tech for this brake job remains unaffected. I'll double click on that labor, and here at the bottom, see? The flat rate hours remain the same no matter how much we adjust the labor sales total. The Profitability Monitor still keeps track of how profitable we are on this job, even though it's using menu labor. I'll double click on this button, and you can see we're actually losing money on the labor portion of this brake job, big time, but we're making up some of it on the parts. So really, whether we selected to keep those brake pads at the $45 selling price or adjusted it like we did, the overall profitability stays the same. Note here, I clicked the profitability button down here, which gave us overall profitability for this repair order. Had I additional services on the RO, it would be looking at everything for profitability. We can always double click on an individual reason for service and get the profitability for just that single job on the repair order if you have a bunch of services listed. but want to know the profitability of just this brake job, for example. And this concludes the lesson on menu labor review.